Should we wait for the others to join in? Hello? How many of you are back to the hostels? आज से कैंपस क्लास स्टार्ट हो गई है ना? कोई नहीं आया क्या? Just one, Fabia. Rest of you are day scholars. I'll share a feedback form for this class. You are required to fill it up. Just going to share it in the chat box. I've sent it. Don't forget to fill it up. I've sent the feedback form in the WhatsApp group also. So those who are not able to see here can do the thing there. So we'll start with the development of urinary system. I'm going to share the screen and then we'll start. So the development of urogenetic system is basically the development of urinary system as well as the genital system. As it is a long topic, I think we'll cover in 2 turns, but this presentation is as a whole. So by the end of the class, you should be able to describe the development of urinary system that includes kidney, ureter, bladder, prostate, and the development of male and female reproductive system, along with the anatomical basis of the related anomalies. Now, urinary system, as I've told you, is the 2 systems which are closely connected to each other. That is, they are interlinked. And what happens is the intraembryonic mesoderm, this fish-tailed appearance is there in the intraembryonic mesoderm by the side of the notochord. This is about general embryology. See, I show you here. This is the developing embryo with the amniotic cavity above and the yolk sac below, and the neural tube over here with the notochord as a black dot. By the side of this, there is intraembryonic mesoderm. Now, this intraembryonic mesoderm is subdivided into how many parts? I want responses. Either you type or yes. So these 3 are paraxial or paraxial, that is by the side of the axis, and axis is the notochord. Intermediate mesoderm and the lateral plate mesoderm. The lateral plate mesoderm was when we were talking about the development of cardiovascular system and the pericardial cavity. So we discussed lateral plate mesoderm over there. Now, here we are concerned with the intermediate mesoderm. This intermediate mesoderm is the one that is responsible for the development of genitourinary or urogenital system. As you can see in the line diagram, this is from an old book, so it is black and white, but you can very well correlate the things. It is the intermediate mesoderm that is responsible for the development of urogenital system, and this forms a bulging on the posterior abdominal wall. Okay? And this bulging gives rise to excretory tubules, nephrogenic cord, mesonephric and paramesonephric ducts. Duct system is there, mesonephric ducts and the paramesonephric ducts, along with the testis or ovary, depending upon the sex of the baby. And along with the intermediate mesoderm, cloaca is also important, because cloaca is the one where the primitive urogenital sinus is formed. We discussed this partitioning of cloaca when we were talking about the development of GIT. Do you remember? याद है कुछ नहीं, सब भूल गए. वैसे भी सुबह आपको मैं बोल चुकी हूँ एक कॉमन सी बात, जिसको आप बेस बनाकर ये भी कर रहे हैं एनाटॉमी, तो फिर भी भूल जाते हैं, सब निकल जाती है ना, लेकिन फिर भी थोड़ा सा रिकॉल करिए. सो दिस इंटरमीडिएट mesoderm is like forms a bulging at the posterior abdominal wall over here like this. This is the gut cavity. The coelomic epithelium, so the coelomic epithelium is covering the whole of this thing. And this coelomic epithelium, along with the nephrogenic cord, gets converted to the medialmost gonad. That is either the testis or the ovary. Then there is mesonephros. The mesonephric tubules are there. Mesonephric duct, that is forming the duct system, collecting tubules and all. And the paramesonephric duct, that is predominantly responsible for the formation of the reproductive organs in females. Okay, and this extends from the cervical to the sacral region. See, as I've told you, the excretory tubules, these excretory tubules are responsible for the formation of kidney, nephric duct, paramesonephric duct, and the gonads, forming the medial side of the nephrogenic cord. Now, when we talk about the cloaca, when was initially partitioned, it was rectum and primitive urogenital sinus. Now, this primitive urogenital sinus is the one we are going to talk about in this context, that is the genital system. So, this primitive urogenital sinus again subdivides into definitive urogenital sinus, that is further subdivided into pelvic part and the phallic part, and the vesico-urethral canal. Vesico-urethral canal is basically made up of two words, vesico and urethra. So it forms the urethra, and the vesico is in context with the urinary bladder. So it is the urinary bladder and the primitive urethra that are formed from the vesico-urethral canal. See, this is how the partitioning is there. This is vesico-urethral canal. Upper one, mesonephric duct, is the demarcating line between the two, and this demarcating line is for the definitive urogenital sinus, which divides further into the pelvic part, that is the cranial one, and the caudal one is the phallic part. Clear now? So these are the derivatives of intermediate mesoderm given in a graphical representation. Now this intermediate mesoderm is basically subdivided into pronephros, mesonephros, and metanephros. In human beings, this metanephros is the one that is forming the urinary system. And this metanephros divides into two, metanephric blastema that forms the nephrons, and the uretric bud that is responsible for the formation of the passage, that is the ureter, calyceal system, and the collecting ducts. This is the metanephros. Whereas pronephros is in early lower animals, that is cyclostomes, and mesonephros is in slightly higher animals, and then metanephros is existing in the humans, or you can say mammals. Now this mesonephros divides into mesonephric duct that forms the male duct system, whereas paramesonephric duct is forming the female duct system, that is the uterine tube, vagina, and proximal uterus and proximal 1/3 of vagina. And the genital ridge is like for the formation of testis and ovary. Now we come to the development of kidneys. Again, kidneys are derived from two components. One is metanephric blastema and another is collecting part. That is the urine that is collected in the ureter and the calyceal system and then finally goes out. So this is derived from the mesonephric duct. See, this mesonephric duct is there. It is in this manner that from the cervical to the sacral region, pronephros, mesonephros, and metanephros is there. And these two are the mesonephric ducts opening into the cloaca. Before entering the cloaca, this mesonephric duct gives out a bud. That bud is known as uretric bud. Here three stages are shown: pronephros, mesonephros, and metanephros. They are rudimentary in higher animals, but they are present or working in cyclostomes. Then there is pronephros, exactly divided, or you can say it is present in the cervical region. And this is represented by 7 to 10 solid cell groups. Then there is mesonephros. This region is the mesonephric region. It is the thoracolumbar part. They are present along the vertebral column, and this is how the arrangement is there. This is pronephros in 7 to 10 segments. Then there is mesonephros in the thoracolumbar region, and metanephros is present in the sacral. And this is responsible for the formation of kidney exactly. So this mesonephric duct is also known as Wolffian duct. That is why it is written as ureteric bud is an outgrowth at the distal end of the Wolffian duct. That is before it enters the cloaca at approximately 5th week of gestation or 5th week of intrauterine life. See, this is metanephric kidney, and the ureteric bud and the mesonephric duct both enter the cloaca. So the collecting system is basically derived from the ureteric bud, and division takes place. Multiple divisions occur. This is the ureteric bud. When it comes in contact with the metanephric tissue, it undergoes repeated branching patterns. And these repeated branchings, they give rise to ureter, renal pelvis, major calyx, and minor calyx, along with the collecting ducts or the collecting tubules. See, this is how the branching is there in the collecting system. Is it clear? Are you getting the things or not? Okay. So this is again a different picture to show you the renal pelvis, the branching, that is the major calyx, minor calyx, and the collecting tubules. These are the collecting tubules. Now when we talk about the nephron, that is, what is nephron?
Structural and functional unit of kidney.
Very good. Now, this nephron is basically formed from metanephric blastema. It is this metanephric blastema which comes in contact with the ampulla of the ureteric bud. This is the ureteric bud, and when it comes in contact, it undergoes differentiation. This differentiation is in such a manner that initially this vesicle becomes pear-shaped. Okay? And then it undergoes further changes to form a S-shaped tubule, where this S-shaped tubule is present over here, and it further undergoes some changes to form the renal corpuscle along with the glomerulus having the afferents and the efferents. And this further undergoes convolutions to form the nephron as a whole, forming the PCT, Henle's loop, and DCT. And then it enters to the collecting tube. So this is how the kidney is formed. It is very important that when the ampulla comes in contact with the metanephric blastema, only then the changes will take place. Otherwise, the changes will not happen. Fine. Now, anomalies of the kidney. Congenital anomalies could be in the form of number, shape, position, blood supply, anything could be there. Number means there could be duplication, there could be single kidney on one side, both can be present on one side, then there could be the number may be increased. Positioning of the kidney is also important. Initially कहाँ होती है? retroperitoneal तो होती है, that is another thing, but initially kidney develop कहाँ से हो रही है? It is developing from the metanephros basically. तो metanephros कहाँ है? Sacral region में. और kidney बाद में ascend up कहाँ हो जाती है? In the lumbar region. So this ascent is also important. अगर ये ascent बीच में कहीं arrest हो जाए तो the kidney will remain at that particular place only. It won't go and position itself in its actual position or the adult position. So this positioning is also important. Suppose there are arteries coming in the way and the ascent gets arrested. So in that case, it will remain either in the sacral region or it may remain midway between the lumbar and the sacral region. Fine. Then there could be aberrant renal artery. Aberrant renal artery is, it usually enters kidney at its pole. Normally artery कहाँ से enter करती है? Kidney में? Yes, reply please.
Through hilum.
Hilum. तो यहाँ क्या होगा? Aberrant means abnormal renal artery. It could either enter from the upper pole, it could either enter from the lower pole. Okay. When we talk about the shape of the kidney, then if the lower two poles of the kidneys they fuse together, then there could be horseshoe kidney. Horseshoe कैसा होता है? horseshoe कैसा होता है? अफरीन, अलवीरा, विशेष, रोशन, U-shaped. Okay. So this U-shaped is achieved by the fusion of the lower poles of the right and left kidneys. तो ये actually जो है lumbar region तक नहीं पहुंचती है because of the presence of inferior mesenteric arteries. That is blocking the ascent. Because दोनों poles जब fuse हो गए तो ascend नहीं होगा, है ना? तो ये problem होती है horseshoe kidney की. There could be pancake kidney. Pancake कैसी होती है? दोनों साइड की किडनीज completely fuse कर जाए. ठीक है? That is pancake kidney. Then there could be polycystic kidney. Polycystic means there is a cyst formation in the substance of the kidney. Arterial system में भी कुछ difference हो सकता है. Anomalous development कहीं भी किसी भी form में होगा, that will lead to congenital anomaly. Renal agenesis is absence of kidney. It could be bilateral or unilateral. ठीक है? फिर यूरेट्रिक बर्ड्स जो हैं वो मेटानेफ्रिक ब्लास्टोमा से कांटेक्ट में नहीं हुई, तो अभी what I told you is when the ampulla of the uretric bud comes in contact with the metanephric blastoma, then only kidney formation takes place. अगर ये कांटेक्ट नहीं होगा तो kidney formation will not take place. So this is resulting in the failure of kidney development. See, there could be bifid ureter, lobulated kidney, anything could happen. And kidneys could also be ectopic. If they are not ascending, they may remain in the pelvis, that is in the sacral region. So ectopic kidneys may also result. This is polycystic kidney disease. The whole of the substance of kidney is filled up with multiple cysts. This is horseshoe kidney. These are the various anomalies, duplications. It could be either of the kidney or the ureter, anywhere. These pictures you can go through later on. Now, when we come to the development of ureter, as you know, it is the mesonephric duct that at its before its entry into the cloaca gives a bud, and this bud is responsible for the formation of ureter along with the whole of the collecting system. So there could be duplication, agenesis, ectopic ureter, and these are some of the anomalies which could be because of the development of ureter that is abnormal. So here you can see the bifid ureter could be initially at the collecting system, at the level of renal pelvis. It could go lower down also, and separate two ureters could also be seen entering the hilum of the kidney. Then the openings may also differ. That is, one is entering above, another is entering below. Fine. Now, when we talk about the development of urinary bladder again is from the vesico-urethral canal. So this whole thing is endodermal in origin, except the trigone of bladder, because the trigone of bladder is the posterior part, trigone, which is like a triangle, which is because of the absorption of the mesonephric ducts. See, the mesonephric ducts are there. This is similar to the one when we talked about the left atrium development. The smooth part of left atrium is formed by the absorption of horns. What horns? Left atrium is formed by the primitive atrial component as well as the smooth part that is absorbed from something. What is actually absorbed? There are openings of 4 pulmonary veins. Pulmonary veins का जो termination है, they get absorbed into the left atrium, forming the smooth component. Similar is the case here also, that the mesonephric ducts get absorbed as the expansion of the urinary bladder takes place. These mesonephric duct terminal parts, they get absorbed into this, forming the trigone of bladder. So trigone is mesodermal in origin. Okay? Rest of the urinary bladder is endodermal. So cranially, it is continuous with the allantois, that is the allantoid diverticulum. And when this allantois atrophies, it is present as urachus, which extends from the bladder to the umbilicus. This is how the development is there. Mesonephric duct and the ureteric buds, they, as the absorption takes place, they are having separate entries, ureter and the mesonephric duct. So this is how the trigone of the bladder is formed, by the absorption of the mesonephric ducts. These are some of the anomalous conditions where the bladder lies open on the lower abdomen, and this condition is termed as ectopia vesicae. Vesica is singular, vesicae is AE. Okay, then there could be urachal fistula or urachal cyst, or sometimes a sinus may also form. That was because of the connection of the bladder to the umbilicus. So in this pattern, there could be sometimes a horn, or a cyst or a sinus could be formed. EXSTROPHY of bladder is inferior part of the wall is incompletely closed. And this is present in 3.3 per 1 lakh births, more common in males. The condition is characterized by exposure and protrusion of the mucosal surface of the bladder, and urine dribbles from the everted bladder. Along with this, there are associated conditions, UTI and anus and vagina are anteriorly located along with the epispadias. That is the development of male external genitalia. We'll talk about it when we'll discuss the genital system. So this is bladder exstrophy. Bladder is protruding out of abdomen. In this case also, it is lying open and exposed. So a lot of chances of infection and sometimes repairing of this defect is there, but majority of cases they have infection because some organ is lying exposed to the exterior. And urachal anomalies, we have already talked about the urachal fistula. Fistula is an opening to the exterior. Cyst may form in the urachus, and the sinus is also present, which may or may not be in communication with the urinary bladder. Means one end is blocked, another end is open. Then talking about urethra. Urethra is also endodermal in origin because it is derived from the cloaca. The connective tissue and the smooth muscle, they are derived from the splanchnic mesoderm. This is a diagram where you can make out how the urethra is developing and it is partitioning in the male and the female. So this exactly is the primitive urogenital sinus where the mesonephric ducts are over here. Now these mesonephric ducts along with the ureteric buds, they expand and trigon of the bladder is formed. And this region is the one where primitive urethra is there. Now this primitive urethra differentiates in male and females differently. See, the proximal part is urinary bladder, that is from the vesico-urethral canal. The vesico-urethral canal, cranial part is forming the urinary bladder, and the caudal one is the primitive urethra. So this primitive urethra, along with the pelvic part of definitive urogenital sinus, forms the female urethra. This is true for the prostatic part of male urethra also. That is, female urethra corresponds to the prostatic urethra in male. And this is derived from primitive urethra along with the cranial part of pelvic urogenital sinus. Then the remaining part is the vestibule in the females, whereas the pelvic part, the caudal one, is forming the membranous urethra. And the phallic part is responsible for the penile urethra. So this is the difference between the male and female urethral development. This diagram, if you draw and then understand, the things will get more easier. And this is development of external genitalia in males. By the end of the third month, the urethral folds, they close over the urethral fold, urethral plate, and they form the penile urethra. This canal does not extend to the tip of the phallus. This is the penile urethra, and this one is the glandular part of urethra. Initially, it is solid. This is exactly the developmental stage of male external genitalia. And in the females, it is like this. So the similar pictures are there. You can correlate and go through. If you're not able to understand, then we'll discuss it again. Now, prostate develops from week 10 to 16. And this SRY gene, that is responsible for the formation of male, you can say the male reproductive system. These cells, they secrete Mullerian inhibiting substance, and this is responsible for the production of testosterone. Wolffian duct, that is the mesonephric duct, is also formed because of this Mullerian inhibiting substance. This is how the prostate is. You must have gone through the gross anatomy of prostate in the abdomen and pelvis region. So basically, what is important is BPH and carcinoma. Your prostatic urethra hai, that is forming the secretory component of the prostate. Means, if we go back to the slides, this one, the prostatic urethra forms the secretory component of the prostate. Okay, and it is this secretory component that is responsible for the secretions in the prostate, whereas the inner glandular zone is the one that is this trigone is mesodermal. So the inner glandular zone is mesodermal in origin, whereas the rest of it is endodermal. And BPH is benign prostatic hypertrophy or the carcinoma of the prostate. These are two very important things that happen in the prostate, depending upon the zones. Outer zone is responsible for the development of malignancy in the prostate, whereas the inner zone is responsible for the hypertrophy of the prostate. See, outer zone, that is the peripheral zone, is responsible for the carcinoma of the prostate, and the BPH, that is benign prostatic hypertrophy or benign prostatic hyperplasia, is because of the inner zone. Should we continue, or like genital system we'll discuss in the next class? I think we should end here. Attend your roll calls. 1 to 50, how many of you are present? Tell me your roll numbers.
Ma'am, roll number 28. Tuba Shahid.
Ma'am, roll number 33.
Just a
Faisal.
minute, just a minute.
Roll number 42, Faraz Hassan.
Ma'am, roll number 13, Alvira.
Hang on a moment, please. I'm sharing the attendance screen so that you can tell me your roll numbers. Okay. Tuba Shahid is one. Then who is there?
Ma'am, roll number 13, Alvira.
Alvira Alam. Okay.
Ma'am, 17, Anjali.
Roll number 11.
Ma'am, 42, Faraz Hassan.
Yes.
Ma'am,
Ma'am,
33.
Just a minute, beta. Just a minute. Manish Kumar is 11.
Yes,
Uske
ma'am.
baad
Ma'am,
Faraz
roll
Hassan
number
kaun hai?
14.
42 is Faraz.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Ma'am, roll number 14. Sayyid Hilal.
40
Ma'am,
is
48. Ma'am, 40.
also there.
Sayyid.
One by one,
48.
please.
Ma'am, 21.
अब मैं
Yes, ma'am,
बात
48.
तो करूँ ना, रुक तो जाइए, एक एक करके बोलिए तो मुझे समझ में आएगा. 48 is मोहम्मद जिया.
Yes, ma'am.
ठीक
Ma'am,
है.
roll
उसके
number
बाद कौन?
14.
14.
19 Ifat.
Yes, ma'am. Sayyid Hilal.
14 is Hilal Hussain.
Roll number 7.
19 is
33.
Ifat Sabri. Just a minute,
yes, ma'am.
बच्चों. But 19 is Ifat Sabri. Who is next?
Roll number 7.
Shifa.
Swapnil Saxena.
स्वप्नल सक्सेना is 7. उसके बाद
Ma'am,
कौन?
20.
20 जो है शिफा. आप
Ma'am,
लोग
21.
आप लोग इस बीच में गूगल फॉर्म फिल कर दीजिए, फीडबैक फॉर्म प्लीज.
Ma'am, 21.
21 इज अनुष्का. उसके
Yes,
बाद कौन है?
Ma'am 33.
33 फैसल अहमद.
6.
Yes, ma'am.
और कौन है?
Ma'am 38.
6.
38 जकवान इजाज. और कौन है?
36.
36 इज लाइबा इमरान. और कौन है? 1 to 50 में और कोई बचा है?
5.
5 रोशन.
Yes, ma'am.
Is it Roshan or Roshan?
Roshan.
Roshan. Okay. और कौन है? 1 to 50 में anyone else left? नहीं है. 51 onwards. 51 to 100.
64.
66.
56.
66.
66 is Tanya Tomar.
Yes,
67.
67 is Vishesh Singhal.
64.
64 is Kabir Haider Jati. और
Ma'am, 73.
73 is Talha Noor. और
Yes, ma'am. 87.
87 is Sadia Rani.
Yes.
और
94.
जी
94.
94 तस्नीम फातिमा.
Yes, ma'am.
और कौन है? शावेज हुसैन भी है ना?
Yes, ma'am. 97.
और कौन है? और कौन है? Zainab Wahab is there or not? No. 51 to 100 में और कोई बचा है? 101 onwards.
Ma'am, roll number 124, Zainab Javed.
124 is Zainab Javed. और
59. Roll number 107.
जी क्या?
107, Zainab Rahman.
Zainab Rahman Ansari. Okay. Next.
114, Amreen Tayyab.
Amreen Tayyab. Okay.
120.
Next.
Ma'am, 129, Faiza.
129 is Faiza Siddiqui. और
132, Suman. Ma'am, roll
134
number 130.
130 is Anam Farhat. और
132.
सुमन हो गया.
133.
फबेहा.
Yes,
फबेहा
ma'am.
is present.
Yes,
और
ma'am.
कौन है? नौशीन न्याजी is there. जी
Ma'am 118.
118 मोहम्मद हुजैफा. और
113.
113 is राशिद हलीम. और कौन है? जी
Ma'am, 146.
111.
11 कौन क्या बोल रहा है? 11
111.
111 अबू नुमैर. 146 कौन है?
Yes, ma'am.
ज्योति शर्मा. और कौन है?
44.
44 भी भव्य गर्ग.
Yes, ma'am.
और
147.
147 is विनय भारद्वाज. और कौन है?
151.
श्रेया.
Yes,
और
ma'am.
कौन है? आप लोग वीडियोस जो है गूगल क्लासरूम में देख लीजिएगा डेवलपमेंट के. ठीक है. आई हैव अपलोडेड इट देयर. यू कैन गो थ्रू द वीडियोस and ask me if you have any problem. कौन बचा है? किसी की अटेंडेंस रह तो नहीं गई ना? फैसल, व्हाट्स योर रोल नंबर? फैसल अहमद. Roll number 140 is left. शोएब अख्तर. और कौन बचा है? $57 भी बचे हैं. 57, रोल नंबर 57. रिजवान. और कौन है? Have you all filled that feedback form? Nikhil Washne, what's your roll number? Nikhil, are you there or not? अपना रोल नंबर बताइए. मुझे कैसे पता लगेगा आपका रोल नंबर क्या है? I think Nikhil has just logged in and left. सो गए हैं. किसी को अंदाजा है निखिल का रोल नंबर क्या है? निखिल वॉश ने.
मैम 126 एक्चुअली मैम नेट कनेक्शन दी तो ऑन नहीं हो रहा था माइक.
अच्छा ओके 126 है आप.
126.
जी ठीक है. So how many of you were there total in the class today? Please fill up the feedback form and go to the Google Classroom to check for those videos. And some models also I have uploaded from the museum. You can have a look there and ask me if you have any problem. You can even WhatsApp me. Okay? If you are not able to understand any of the model, you can contact me. Thank you all.